So in this lesson, we are going to cover Cambridge Book 8, Test 4. And remember, if you are taking the academic component, please have a look at the video because this paper is for the academic students, right? So before I show you the answers, I'd like you to pause the video here and actually do the test. You can download the paper, Cambridge Book 8, Test 4, time yourself for 1 hour and do the test. At the end of the test, let's have a look at the answers and review through and see why these answers are correct and why the other answers are incorrect. So off you go. Please pause the video. You have 1 hour to complete the paper. Alright, so I think you might have completed the paper by now. So let's have a look at the answers. Test 4, reading passage 1 answers. Okay. Next one, reading passage 2 answers. And then the next one, reading passage 3 answers. Make sure that you have checked if the spellings are correct, please. Right, so let's review it. Now, if you have got a low score, which is around 0 to 12, we are not doing too good. But if we're looking at 30 to 40, it means that we are doing okay, right? Okay, so passage 1, Land of the Rising Sun, okay? Questions 1 to 5, choose the correct heading for sections B to F. So let's have a look at section B. Or rather in para B, the writer gives us an overview about lower secondary schools in Japan, such as the number of years. Lower secondary schools in Japan cover 3 school years in the private sector. The facilities school are usually modern in design. The time of lessons standardized for 50 minutes. Break time, a 10-minute break, right? So you can see here, it is giving you some background to middle years education in Japan, right? How many years, their break time, their study time, all of that. So I would take the answer as 7. Background to middle years education in Japan, okay? So lower secondary schools mean middle years education. So it's not the primary, okay, but it's the secondary, but rather the lower levels, okay. So it's the middle kind of years. Secondary school is the middle years, right? That goes from grade 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So here definitely it is middle years education, right, which means lower secondary schools, right? Alright, section C, which is para C. Everyone has their own copy of the textbook supplied by the Central Education Authority, Monbusho, as a part of the concept of free compulsory education up to the age of 15. Okay, so what does Monbusho do? It's a central authority that supplies textbooks, right? So the influence of Monbusho, I would say in the first one, if you read it through, it goes on to talk about, besides approving textbooks, Monbusho also decides the highly centralized national curriculum and how it is to be delivered. That means that Monbusho has great effects and influence not only on textbooks but also on the national curriculum. Moving on into para D, the writer indicates the pattern for a maths lesson, right? So lessons all follow the same pattern. At the beginning, the pupils put solutions to the homework on the board, and then the teacher comments and collects and then elaborate where necessary. So there's a typical format of a math lesson that happens every day, every week. So the answer there is 5. Section E, teachers say that they give individual help at the end of a lesson or after school, setting extra work if necessary. Moreover, in observed lessons, Any struggles would be assisted by the teacher or quietly seek help from their neighbor, right? So here it means that teachers are willing to help their students who have difficulties in learning. So helping less successful students, answer would be 2. Okay. Para F, the writer raises a question in order to find out what factors contribute to the success of math education in Japan. So, what are the major contributing factors in the success of maths teaching, right? Certainly, attitudes are important. Some other relevant points relate to the supportive attitude of a class towards slower pupils, right? So, here what is it talking about? The key to Japanese success in maths education, more or less. They're asking the question and they're telling, okay, these are the factors that contribute towards the success. Okay, so answer here is going to be 8. Questions number 6 to 9. There is a wider range of achievement among English pupils studying maths than among their Japanese counterparts. So keywords: wider range of achievement, English pupils studying maths, Japanese counterparts. Now if you come to para A, right, let's have a look at this bit. But there was a larger proportion of low, right? Attainers in England where incidentally the variation in attainment scores was much greater. This means though Japan has a significant better record in terms of average mathematical attainment than England and Wales, a wider range of attainment scores than Japan, right? So actually in England and Wales, it is common for some people to achieve very high scores while others only have low scores. That's why they say, but there was a larger proportion of low attainers, right? So there are high numbers as well, but the low is fairly a larger proportion, right? So if you have a look at the answer, yes, why? There is a wider range of achievement among English pupils studying maths and amongst their Japanese counterparts. Yes, there is. Okay. So it says here, this means that though Japan has significantly a better record in terms of average mathematical attainment than England and Wales, England and Wales has a wider range of attainment scores than Japan. So in England and Wales, it is common for some people to achieve very high scores while others only have low scores, right? So question number 7, the percentage of, so your keywords are percentage of gross national product spent on education generally reflects the level of attainment, right? So you can say level of attainment. The last sentence in para A states, the percentage of gross national product spent on education is reasonably similar in the two countries. So how is this higher and more consistent attainment in maths achieved, right? So how does this really happen? Now they are asking that question, and this means obviously though both countries, Japan and England, receive the same percentage of GNP, the level of achievement in studying maths is higher in Japan. Moreover, in the first sentence, the writer indicates that Japan has a better record in mathematical attainment than England and Wales. Therefore, it is false to say that the percentage of GNP spent on education reflects the level of attainment. Okay, we really can't say that. So here the answer is no, right? Next one. Private schools in Japan are more modern and spacious than state-run lower secondary schools. Well, In para B, the writer says all pupils attend state schools. Only 3% are in the private sector. Schools, which means the state ones, are usually modern in design, set well back from the road and spacious inside. This means that, the state only has the state schools which are modern and spacious. We don't know whether the private schools are more modern than or not. Because it talks about the state schools, but the private schools are more modern, we don't know. So the answer is not given. Question number 9. Teachers mark homework in Japanese schools, right? Go to para D. Pupils mark their own homework. So do the teachers mark it? Definitely no. It's the pupils who mark their homework, right? Okay, now this is what I also like. Why do they do that? Because pupils see where and why they made a mistake so that these can be avoided in the future. If someone else marks it for you, you just not bother to look at it again. Maths textbooks in Japanese schools are, okay, para C. These textbooks are on the whole small, presumably inexpensive to produce, but well set out and logically developed. What does it mean? It's been thought through well and logically developed. Textbooks are referred to again in para D. The logical nature of textbooks and their comprehensive coverage of different types of examples combined with the relative homogeneity of the class renders worksheets unnecessary. Therefore, teachers do not need to use worksheets. The maths textbooks contain everything that the pupils need. So what does it mean? They are well organized and adapted, right? What do you mean by adapted? You change it according to your students, right? So well organized and adapted to the needs of the pupils, right? So answer would be B. When a new maths topic is introduced, what happens, right? Go to para D. The teacher explains the topic of the lesson slowly with a lot of repetition and elaboration. Examples are demonstrated on the board. Questions from the textbook are worked through first with the class. This means that when new maths topic is introduced, the teacher patiently gives a clearly explanation of the topic. So what happens when a new topic is introduced? It's carefully and patiently explained to the students, and the answer is definitely C. How do schools deal with students who experience difficulties? Okay. If you go to para E, teachers say that they give individual help at the end of a lesson or after school, setting extra work if necessary. In observed lessons, any strugglers would be assisted by the teachers or quietly seek help from their neighbor. Schools also encourage parents to help, right? Parents are kept closely informed of their children's progress and will play a part in helping their children to keep up with class, sending them to JUCO. JUCO is private evening tuition if extra help is needed. So what is done? They are given appropriate supplementary tuition, or sometimes we give them supplementary material. Here they give them JUCO, which is private tuition classes, right? So answer would be A. So how do they deal with the students who experience difficulty? Individual attention and give them extra classes in the evening, okay? Why do Japanese students tend to achieve relatively high rates of success in maths? Come to para F. Maths is recognized as an important compulsory subject throughout schooling, and the emphasis is on hard work, coupled with a focus on accuracy. Maths is an important subject in Japanese schooling. Japanese students tend to learn hard, make a lot of effort to focus on the accuracy of the answers. That means they work very hard and they focus on accuracy, right? Accuracy is how well correct, okay? How much is correct? Much effort is made and correct answers are emphasized definitely, and that is going to be answer C. Moving on to passage 2, which is about the biological control of pests. Choose the correct letter A, B, C or D, right? The use of pesticides has contributed to, let's have a look at it. Go to para 1 and see. Apart from endangering widespread ecological disorders, pesticides have contributed to the emergence of a new breed of chemical resistance, highly lethal superbugs. Right? So, what has happened? Actually, the use of pesticides is partly responsible for the widespread ecological developments or rather disorders, right, of highly lethal superbugs, types of insects that are difficult to destroy and which cause a lot of damage, right. So, I would say the answer is B, an imbalance in many ecologies around the world, because it's hard when these pesticides are used and then these highly lethal superbugs come out, we can't really control it, and then the ecological system breaks down. The Food and Agriculture Organization has counted more than 300 agriculture pests which, so let's read para 2. More than 300 species of agricultural pests have developed resistance to a wide range of potent chemicals. That means pesticides no longer have any effect on the agricultural pests, which is answer E, right? Question number 16. Cotton farmers in Central America began to use pesticides. So go to para 4. It states, or rather refers, cotton farmers in Central America avidly took to pesticides as a sure measure to boost crop yield. That means farmers used the pesticides to increase their harvest, right? To ensure more cotton was harvested from each crop. Yes, that's what actually happened. D is the answer. 17. By the mid-1960s, cotton farmers in Central America found that pesticides, what was wrong? In para 5, by the mid-1960s, the situation took an alarming turn with the outbreak of 4 more new pests, necessitating pesticide spraying to such an extent that 50% of the financial outlay on cotton production was accounted for by the pesticides. So what happened? Were costing 50% of the total amount they spent on their crops for the pesticides, right? This means pesticides accounted for 50% of the amount of money they spent on the cotton production, which was not that too good. So D is the answer. Questions number 18 to 21. Okay. Disease spreading pests respond more quickly to pesticides than agricultural pests do. Come to para 2. The FAO states more than 300 species of agricultural pests have developed resistance to a wide range of potent chemicals. Not to be left behind are the disease-spreading pests, about 100 species of which have become immune to a variety of insecticides now in use. In this paragraph, the writer only refers to a number of species of both agriculture and disease, right? spreading pests which respond to pesticides. There's nothing mentioned about the type of pests, right? So therefore, I think the information would be not given. Right, moving on, question number 19. A number of pests are now born with an innate immunity to some pesticides. Okay, let's see para 3. Because of their tremendous breeding potential and genetic diversity, many pests are known to withstand synthetic chemicals and bear offspring with a built-in resistance to pesticides. So this means that species are born with an innate immunity, which means yes, the answer is true. Next one, number 20. Biological control entails using synthetic chemicals to try and change the genetic makeup of the pests, right? In paragraph 7 it states, in the face of the escalating perils from the indiscriminate applications of pesticides, a more effective and ecologically sound strategy of biological control involving the selective use of nature enemies of the pest population is fast gaining popularity, though as yet it is a new field with limited potential. Okay, so what does it say? That biological control is more effective and ecological sound strategy used in an effort to tackle the serious danger caused by the application of pesticides. So this actually means that the biological control does not use pesticides but uses natural enemies of the pests. So the answer should be false to say that biological control entails using synthetic chemicals because it uses the natural enemies of the pests, right? Okay, question number 21. Biocontrol is free from danger under certain circumstances. Okay, go to para 7 and they say, the advantage of biological control in contrast to other methods is that it provides a relatively low cost, perpetual control system with a minimum of detrimental side effects, right? So biocontrol is free from danger under certain circumstances, yes, right? Minimum of detrimental side effects. So the answer is yes. Question number 22, right? Discipline scale insects feed on, right? So if you go to the last sentence in para 9, it says, right, they prey on what? Insects prey on fruit trees in the US and India, right? So what do they feed on? Basically fruit trees. Answer is D. Okay. Now here it is Neodymium sangawani, right? Okay. So this one, the Neodymium sangawani was found useful in controlling the Rhodes grass-scale insect and was found devouring forage grass in many parts of the US, okay? And what did they actually eat, okay? Forage grass in many parts of the US. This means that they ate grass-scale insect to control it from devouring forage grass. So I would say grass-scale insects. Answer is H, okay? Question number 24, leaf mining hispides blighted, okay? So if you go to para 10, in the late 1960s when Sri Lanka's flourishing coconut groves were plagued by leaf mining hispides, a larval parasite imported from Singapore brought the pest under control, okay? So the leaf mining hispides blighted, okay? Blighted, plague, what does it mean? What did it actually blight up, right? The coconut trees, right? 25. An Argentinian weevil may be successful in wiping out what? Okay, so here similarly a Hyderabad-based regional laboratory supported by CIBC is now trying out an Argentinian weevil for the eradication of water hyacinth. This means an Argentinian weevil may be successful in destroying all the water. So the answer here is E. Have a look at the paper while you're watching the video. 26. Salvinia molesta plagues, right? If you go to para 10, by using a beetle which is native to Brazil, scientists at the Kerala Agriculture University freed a 12-kilometer long canal from the clutches of the weed Salvinia molesta. About 30,000 hectares of rice fields in Kerala are infested by this weed. Okay, so Salvinia molesta plagues what? The rice fields. Okay, plague means infest. Passage 3, which is the last passage. Collecting ant specimens, right? Questions number 27 to 30. Do the following statements agree with the information given in the reading passage? You have to say yes or no. Number 27. Taxonomic research involves comparing members of one group of ants. Come to para 1. For taxonomy or classification long series from a single nest which contain all castes, which means workers including major and minor, right, if present queens and males, are desirable to allow determination of variation within species. So what does this mean? It means that taxonomic research involves classifying ants from a single nest which contain all castes or different members of a group. So what is the answer? It is true because it involves comparing a member of one group of ants. So that is definitely true. Question number 28. So all the information relating to taxonomic research is in para 1, and if you take it, taxonomic research involves comparing the members of one group of ants, and the taxonomist sometimes overlooks whole species in the favor of those currently under study. So there is no information about how often new species of ants are identified. They say they do observe, but how often we don't know. So the answer is not given. 29. Range is the key criterion for ecological collections. Go to para 1. For ecological studies, the most important factor is collecting identifiable samples of as many of the different species present as possible. This means that it is important for ecological collections to collect a variety of present species, right? So therefore, range is the key criterion. Yes, it is, because they collect a variety. So the answer is definitely true. Question number 30. A single collection of ants can generally be used for both taxonomic and ecological purposes. Let's see. Again, go to para 1. For ecological studies, the most important factor is collecting identifiable samples of as many of the different species present as possible. Taxonomists prefer to collect a lot of ants from a single nest. Unfortunately, these methods are not always compatible. Therefore, one collection of ants cannot always be used for both purposes. Definitely not for both. They say that can be used for both taxonomic and ecological. It says cannot always be used. So the answer is false. Question number 31 to 36. It is preferable to take specimens from groups of ants. Go to para 2. In the hand collecting method, when possible, collections should be made from nest or foraging columns and at least 20 to 25 individuals collected. This will ensure individuals from the same species and so increase the value for detailed studies, right? So therefore, what is the answer here? It is preferable to take specimens from groups of ants hand collecting. It's called the hand collecting method and the answer is A. It is particularly effective for wet habitats. Go to para 4. In the ground litter sampling method, this method works especially well in the rainforest and marshy areas. Rainforest and marshy areas are obviously wet habitats. So what works well? Sampling ground litter. Question number 33. It is a good method for species which are hard to find. So what is a good method? Using baits. Okay. That's in para 3. Baits can be used to attract and concentrate foragers. This often increases the number of individuals collected and attracts species that are otherwise elusive, right? So therefore, it means that the baits can be used to collect species which are hard to find. So using bait, answer B. 34. Little time and effort is required. Go to para 5, it talks about the pitfall trap method. One advantage of pitfall traps is that they can be used to collect over a period of time with minimal maintenance and intervention. That means when using pitfall traps, little time and effort is required. So answer is D, using a pitfall trap. Question number 35. Separate containers are used for individual specimens. Let's go to the hand collecting method. Para 2. Individual insects are placed in a plastic or glass tube. Right? Insects are placed in plastic or glass tubes with different sizes, which means they are placed in a separate tube. So that would be hand collecting method and the answer is A. Question number 36. Non-alcoholic preservative should be used. Go to para 5, pitfall traps. Is usually ethylene glycol or propylene glycol, right? So as alcohol will evaporate quickly and the traps will dry out. So non-alcoholic preservatives if they are not alcoholic ones, because it says alcohol will evaporate. So therefore using a pitfall trap, answer is D. Questions number 37 to 40. Okay. This is most commonly done by placing leaf litter blank on a screen blank over a large funnel, often under some heat blank. As the leaf dries from the above and move downward and eventually fall out at the bottom and are collected in alcohol blank placed below the funnel. Okay. So actually this should be, I think this should be 37, 38, 39 and 40. Okay, so just I've changed the numbers a bit. Okay. So you've got the answers there. So moving on to questions number 37 to 40, right? These are quite straightforward answers and I think we had a look at the answers before, so you would have it by now, right? So I think just to change the numbering, this should be 37, 38, 39 and 40, okay? So the answers were there for you. They were quite straightforward, so it's rather nothing to be discussed. It was there for you in your reading passage. So that brings us to the end of the discussion. We had a look at test 4 from Cambridge Book 8.